going to spend a little bit of time just going over a couple of practice problems in the same way that we have been doing them today and last night. And what I'd like for you to do is I am going to present some problems to you. I'm hoping maybe to go through 2 or 3 problems. I want you to try to solve them. So I will present the problem to you. You should press pause and try to solve it. And then I will show you how to solve it. So the first problem that I would like to present to you is going to be 12 over 20. Okay? So now I would like for you to press pause or to stop the recording and try to simplify this fraction yourself. Okay, so now you can turn it, now that you've turned this back on, you have tried to simplify this fraction yourself. So that should be done in pencil, and it should have been done neatly because that's what you're going to hand in. Now follow along with a red pen and go ahead and correct it as I've done. I'm going to do this both ways, and I want you to copy down how you do this problem both ways. So the first thing we need to do, whether we're doing this no matter which way we're solving this problem, is we need to create a factor tree. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor 12, and I've got 2 and 6 and 2 and 3. See, I'm getting better at writing with this pad now. And then 20, I've got 2 and 10 and 2 and 5. Okay? So I can say that 12 equals 2 times 2 times 3, and I can say that 20 equals 2 times 2 times 5. And I can circle these. It's the circling that's kind of tough for me. Whee! And I can say that the greatest common factor equals 2 times 2, which equals 4. So now when I take 12 over 20, I can divide both the numerator and the denominator by 4. So I'm dividing by 1. So I divide by 4 over 4, and I get 3/5. Another way to do this is to say that 12, so here's the second way to do this, is to say that 12 over 20 equals 2 times 2 times 3, and divide that by 2 times 2 times 5. And now I'm going to take my different colored pen, and I'm going to mark out 1, 2 there, and another 2 there, another 2 there, and another 2 there. I'm going to go back, and now I can say that this equals 3/5. So when you turn in your paper tomorrow, the first problem should have the problem, how you did it in pencil, and then any corrections that required. And then if you did the problem this way, when you find the greatest common factor, if you did the problem this way, okay, then you should also write this down in red pen. If you did the problem this way, then you should write this down in red pen. Both problems should have a factoring tree, okay? You only have to do the factoring tree once, but in any instance, you must have a factoring tree. Okay, so let's go to another page and let's look at a different one. Let's look at one with a negative number. And this problem is going to be a negative 70 over 75. Now that negative number doesn't matter which one is negative. I could simply rewrite that if I wanted to. Another trick would just be to pull out the negative 1 in front and say that's negative 1 of 70 over 75 times 70 over 75. that's slightly different than how we did it yesterday. Both are perfectly valid. And mathematics is learning a number of different ways to do the same tasks, so that when you learn how, when you are given a very difficult problem, you can choose which way is going to be easier. And it's not necessarily what's easier for you, and sometimes that's the case, but sometimes it's just a matter of determining what is easier for that particular problem. So what is my first step? Well, I need a factor. So no matter which way I do this problem, if I'm going to find the greatest common factor, or if I'm just going to write out all of the factors and then cross them out, I still have to find out what the factors are. And I always have to factor from lowest to highest. So 8 is not divisible. 3 plus 5 is 8, and that is not divisible by 3. So my next factor is going to be 5 and then 7. So my prime factors of 70 are 2, 5, and 7. And of 75, okay, 7 plus 5 is 12, so that is divisible by 3. Okay, but 25 is not divisible by 3, and those are my factors there. Okay, so now I can say that 70 equals 2 times, I'm going to leave a little bit of a space, well, no, I'm going to leave a little, I'm going to put that there, but I'm going to leave a little bit of a space here, because I can see that my 75 is going to be, I'm going to kind of put that there, 3 times 5 times 5. So now I can easily, my greatest common factor, I can easily line up, because I have everything in order. I can easily line up my 2 5s. So my greatest common factor is 5. And I wouldn't expect that, would you? Okay, so what I can do then is I can say, all right, negative 1 times 70 over 75, okay, divided by 5 over 5, okay, is going to equal, and one thing that's nice about this, what is 70 divided by 5? Well, if I look at this breakdown of the number, I notice that 70 is made up of 2, 5, and 7 when I multiply all of those together. If I take out that 5, what's left? A 2 and a 7. Well, what's 2 times 7? 14. Okay? And what is 3 times 5? 15. So this is 14 fifteenths. Okay? But I also notice I have a negative 1 here. I can't forget that. So there's my negative 14 over 15. Now I kind of squished it in above by the negative 14. It doesn't matter if this is in front of the fraction, in the numerator, or in the denominator. Doesn't matter. Let's do this the other way. So I'm going to say that a negative 1 times 70 over 75, okay, is going to equal a negative 1 times 2 times 5 times 7 over 3 times 5 times 5. And I'm going to complete my parentheses there. I'm going to take my different colored pen. I'm going to mark that out. And I'm going to say that that equals a negative 1 times 2 times 7, over 3 times 5, which equals a negative 14 over 15. Okay, so again, on your notes, and so I'm just going to sort of draw a quick line between the two different methods there. On your notes, I want to see this, or this problem. I want to see how you solved it in pencil. And then whichever method you used, I want to see you correct it. And then the second method should be copied down in red pen. Okay? So now let's go on to our third problem, and this one's going to use variables. So our third problem, is going to be 25 AB over 40 AX. Okay, so now you need to try, so press stop and then you need to try to solve this problem. Okay, so there are two ways to solve this problem. Both of them require factoring. Unfortunately, this is a pretty quick factoring tree here. And 40 isn't too bad. It's going to be 2 and 20 and 2 and 10 and 2 and 5. Now, if you can do this in your head, that's great, and that's a really useful tool. But for now, I want everybody to be writing out their factoring trees, because when you get into much, much bigger numbers, you really need to have that skill, and you need to be able to factor without even really thinking about it. So it's really going to help your mental math quite a bit. Okay, so now I can say that 25 equals, and I'm going to put the 5 times 5 out here, because I know when I have 40, it's going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. And so I want to squish in those 2's ahead of that. I'm also going to count 1, 2, 5's, 1, 2, 5's, and then I'm going to count here 1, 2, 3 2's, 1, 2, 3 2's, and then a 5. And a lot of you are circling your prime numbers, and that's very helpful too. You don't have to do that. So my greatest common factor then is going to be 5, because that's the only thing that's there. So now I can say that 20, oops, I forgot, this is AB, and this is AX. I forgot to put that in there. So this is going to be times A times B, and this we also need to add in here times A times, and then I'm going to put that over there. So I neglected, so when I rewrote the problem, I saw my error, and my greatest common factor is not 5. My greatest common factor is 5A. So now I write 25AB over 40AX. Okay, and I'm going to divide everything by 5A over 5A. So I divide by 1. And so my answer is going to be 5B, okay, over, well, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, over 8x, okay, because the x is left over. The other way I could do this is that I could say that 25AB over 40AX equals 5 times 5 times A times B over 2 times 2 times 2 times 5 times A times X. Now I'm going to take my different colored pen, and I'm going to mark through the 5 there, and the 5 there, and the A there, and the A there. And what do I have left? Okay, but that equals 5B over 8x. So on your homework, you should have 3 problems, each of them copied down, and that is the end of our lesson.